We'll call this meeting of the public session to order. Would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Possibly. Let me just see.
Do you want to add anything about meeting regarding the CTE?
We could probably do that during board discussion. Mr. Handy.
Yes.
Suggested items to add to the board agenda, to the
Consent agenda.
to the consent. Yeah, thank you. The consent agenda. Do you have a list of those items? Mostly just transfers.
Yeah, it was two transfers. Two transfers and one nomination. I'm just pulling them up right now. Just give me a sec.
Okay.
All right, so for a nomination, we have Nicole Charette, CHS permanent substitute, effective April 11th, 2022. We have an internal transfer of Don Knoyer, CHS ELA teacher to JRMS 8th grade social studies teacher. That would be effective July 1. And then we also have another transfer, Seth Farmer, CHS social studies teacher to CHS English / social studies. So it'd be two half times, well, one full time, but two. And then that would also be effective July 1st. Those documents were sent to the board a little bit before non-public.
So the two situations we have, Mr. Farmer would be teaching both ELA as well as social studies, both in the high school area where he currently is at. So it's not necessarily going to a different school, but this is part of the restructuring. And then Ms. Knoyer would be going from the high school English to the, did you say 8th grade? 8th grade social studies. And so that would be in place. That would also be for starting of next year. And that would be replacing the current, we had what Deb Rom had retired. And then the last one is a permanent sub to help out because we have an opening right now in the area of special education, and it's a sport room where an individual had retired earlier, I think last month. So Deanne Bartlett, so to help out in that area. So okay. Those are the three.
So do we need a motion to add those to the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the additions of the nomination of Nicole Charette and the internal transfers of Don Knoyer and Seth Farmer to the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
I'd also like to make a second motion to remove the JREA nominations from the consent agenda so that I may recuse myself.
Okay. And do we have a second for that? Second. Okay. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. See, if we were next to each other, then could have answered.
All right. very
And
good.
who made the second on that first motion?
First motion was Kim.
Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. So let's move on to public comments.
All right, so this is Nicholas Handy, Communications Coordinator, School Board Secretary. We have, if you notice on the agenda, we do have kind of two public comment sections kind of close together. This one is more of a general public comment section, agenda related items. We'll have one later specific to the presentation on the Route 202 project. So before anybody wants to make a public comment, just make sure you're familiar with our public comment policy. It's up on the screen for everybody to read. Please use first name, last name, and town of residence before making a public comment. If you are digital, you can raise your hand so we can acknowledge you by using the hand raise feature that should be at the bottom of whatever screen you are using. And then obviously anybody in person can just, actually raise your hand. So we'll give a couple, 10, 15 seconds, I guess, to see if anybody has any interest. Anybody in the physical audience? No? Okay. All right, then we'll just give a chance for the digital. All right, I'm not seeing anybody. And again, just a reminder, we have one specific to the Route 202 project. We also have a second public comment section toward the end of the meeting.
Okay, great. So we're not seeing anybody right now, so we'll move on to the presentation on our Route 202 project. And we'd like to thank you folks for coming to talk to us about this tonight.
My name is Mark Kennedy. I'm with the engineering firm of VHB, and we've been retained by the New Hampshire Department of Transportation to do the design of this Main Street US 202 improvements. With me tonight is Toby Reynolds, the Chief Project Manager with the DOT. Also, Marlon Austin, also with the DOT. He's been involved with the sidewalk project, which is a separate project than the 202 project,
Yeah.
but he came tonight just in case there were any questions on that, and he could help on that. Also, Phil Bloom is with VHB. He's also with me.
Yes, thank you.
So what I'm going to do is I'll try to just as briefly as possible, give you just an overview of the project. But then I'm going to focus more on pedestrian safety and the issues that I think you would be more concerned with as far as students, mobility through the downtown. So let me start. Okay.
There's a little delay just on the screen you're going to see here, just because we're feeding through.
Okay.
This is projecting on an alternate screen. So just might be a couple of seconds away for you.
All right, still take a little longer than I anticipated. Anyway, let me just start with the problem we're trying to address here. There's really two primary issues. The first is traffic congestion at 202, and the primary problem is anyone who probably drive through that area knows is that 202 is a dogleg intersection that passes two signalized intersections that are within about 300 feet apart. The heavy volume passes along from Peterborough Street over Main Street and down River Street, and it's just inefficient to be passing through those two signals so close. You have the left turn that actually back up and block the next intersection. And we'll wait for the next slide to come up. The second area we're focused on is pedestrian mobility, and this is a drone. We put up a drone up. This was back in 2017, just to watch what's going on, both vehicles and pedestrians. And I'm going to show you a little animation here of what we showed. This down in that. This is the five-legged intersection at Peterborough and Stratton and Turnpike Road, and down at the very bottom where you see that yellow circle. There's about 8 kids hanging around the corner there. That's where the lab and logger is. They are going to try to make a crossing over to the upper left corner where the Chinese restaurant is. And if you were going to make that move, you should cross across Blake Street, use the crosswalk, and then use the crosswalk across Main Street. And by the way, I'd point out that crosswalk crossing Main Street is about 70 feet in length. Let me just see if I can run. What you're going to see is a couple of the kids are going to go first and cross Blake Street. And then one's going to decide to run right through the center of the intersection. And then the rest of them are going to follow the first kid. And then the ones who already crossed the crosswalk are going to come back out into the center of the road and make the dash across. And so there's about 8 of them crossing through the middle of the intersection. That, you'll notice that the right turn vehicle coming out of Peterborough Street wants to take that right turn, and they're waiting for kids to get to the other end of the street. The issue we're dealing with here is that intersection just has too much pavement. The crosswalks are much too long, and that's one of the issues. Even though there is a traffic signal there, people don't necessarily use the crosswalks, and that intersection is very intimidating for not only for kids but for older adults to be crossing at that distance. So I'm going to go through this very quickly, but I just want to let you know that we started the preliminary engineering environmental documentation phase of this back in 2017. So we had an initial study that looked at a number of different alternatives that got us to what I'm going to show you tonight. But I just want you to understand that throughout that process, we had a very in-depth public outreach effort where we had, we worked with an advisory committee in town, and we had everything from, and all of this is continuing through this design phase, which is, there's a project website on the DOT's website that has all kinds of information on it. We have an email stakeholders list where anybody who comes to meetings and gives us their email, we send out information periodically, such as newsletters and advanced notices of public meetings and so on. And so all of that will be continued through the design phase, which we are in now. Let's see. So we went to a after the initial study, we went through, looked at all various alternatives, and the final proposed action that we brought to a public hearing back in October 2019 is the plan that you see in front of you, which includes constructing a roundabout at the intersection at Main Street and Peterborough Street and Stratton, constructing a new bridge crossing the Kentucky River as you pass through Blake Street and cross over to River Street, where you would have another second roundabout at River Street where the bridge comes in. And basically what that will do is addresses the dogleg intersection, where now the vehicles who are passing along 202 don't come into a traffic signalized intersection, take a right-hand turn, wait for another signal, take a left-hand turn. Now they would pass through the roundabout, go over the new connector road, cross the river, and then over to 202. Additionally, what that does is the volume of traffic along that segment of Main Street, just to the west of the roundabout, and that segment of River Street between the second roundabout and Main Street, the volume of traffic is going to be substantially less. The volume of traffic on Main Street is going to be about 58% less than it is today. The volume of traffic on that section of River Street is going to be about 75% less than it is today. In addition, what this is doing is what we're trying to do, in addition to processing traffic through here, we want to change the kind of the look and the feel of this immediate area of downtown so that it's much more pedestrian friendly. And what we're going to be doing is shrinking the amount of pavement, increasing the widths of sidewalks, decreasing the lengths of crosswalks. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how the pedestrians cross at the roundabout. So let's look closer at the roundabout. Now, does this pointer work? It doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah.
Actually, here it is. I got it. All right. So at the roundabout, what you'll notice here is that there is a single lane approach to all 5 legs. And in fact, this section of Main Street which today has like 4 lanes through here. This is down to a single lane in each direction. And what you have is I don't know how many of you are familiar with roundabouts, in particular 1-lane roundabouts, which by the way are different than 2-lane roundabouts. 1-lane roundabouts are designed for traffic calming, slowing traffic down. The traffic that will be passing through this roundabout, this is designed for vehicles to be passing through at about 15 miles per hour. And the way it works is that vehicles will come into the roundabout, and they will yield to vehicles in the roundabout and then enter and then go to whatever approach they want. And the way pedestrians are handled at the roundabout is that there are crosswalks on all the legs of the roundabout. And the crosswalks are set up so they are actually one vehicle back from the point where you enter the roundabout. And the reason for that is you want the motorist who's coming into the roundabout, you don't want them to be making a decision on whether there's a vehicle coming around the roundabout or there's a pedestrian. You want them to make that decision first. So if there is a pedestrian standing here waiting to cross in the crosswalk, then that pedestrian waits for this vehicle to come to a full stop at the crosswalk, and then they cross. Each of that length of crossing there is they're crossing one lane and in one direction. And that length of crossing is about 12 feet. So the comparison, the 12 feet versus say the 70-foot crossing, if somebody's walking at their normal walking pace to cross a 70-foot crosswalk, which is today you cross Main Street, it takes you about 20 seconds. If you're crossing 12 feet, you're 3.5 to 4 seconds. And that's what makes the situation different, is that the pedestrians will spend less time in the a point where there could potentially be a conflict with the vehicle. In addition to this crossing, you'll see in this area in the purple, these are sidewalks. And all these sidewalks are being made much, much wider. And the idea is that for when motorists come in and enter the downtown, this will have a look where you would expect to see pedestrians. The way the intersections are laid out today, it's very much automobile and for that matter, truck dominant. You don't notice pedestrians because the pedestrians, again, sidewalks are smaller and frankly, there are not as much pedestrians and activity in the downtown as you would expect, simply because it's difficult to walk around downtown. Let me show you a couple of pictures here of what this will look like, and then I'm going to come back a little bit and talk about this. So, oh, I'm sorry.
Can we go back to the prior slide? You talked about the crosswalk on one side, which was the traffic entering the rotary.
Yep.
What about the crosswalk on the other side?
Oh, well, you mean continuing to cross it?
Yes, you
cross
got
it.
rotary traffic coming in there.
Yes, okay, that's right. So you cross here, there's 12 feet. There's a pedestrian refuge island, which is in the center. So in between, when you get to the center where there's this refuge island, the crosswalk will go through and the pedestrian raised island will be on either side of the crosswalk. That distance will be about 6 feet. So there'll be an area when you cross the road, there'll be another area about 6 feet, which you'll have the raised medians on either side. You get to that point, and again, the pedestrian, if there's a pedestrian in that crosswalk, somebody who's coming out of the roundabout and heading in this direction, they would stop at that point because somebody is in the crosswalk. If for some reason they do not, they drive through, that pedestrian doesn't step out until that vehicle has stopped. That pedestrian is within that 6 foot area within the median area. And so the idea is you're only crossing, again, this one lane of vehicles in one direction at a time. And that's what makes it safer.
So do you anticipate any traffic backup in the rotary since you've got one car length for cars to stop or pedestrians?
No. The way it works now, I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to come back to this. I want to talk a little bit more about your activity when schools lets out, because I think the reality is that when schools let out, there's a 15-minute period or so after schools let out, that you can't design anything here to completely work. And even with the signals that I'll do today, I've driven through here when school lets out, and everything just sort of shuts down. So there will be a time when, frankly, the students who are crossing are going to take over, and there will be some backups of cars because they're going to have to wait for the students to get through. But beyond that 15 minutes, there wouldn't be any kind of backups or delays in the roundabout during the normal times of traffic. I'm going to come back. Go ahead.
So Marty, I was just wondering that the street that we would be most interested in is Stratton Road there, because that's where our students come out. And if you're coming out along Stratton Road there, right where you've got the pointer now.
Yeah.
What's the pathway to get across to Main Street?
Okay, so if you're, right here, this is, so Stratton Road, this is kind of the top of where the trail comes out. And so again, you can see that purple area, what we're making that is, that's all kind of a wide open sidewalk. So there'll be a lot of area there to be able to, to stand. There's a right turn lane here coming from the connector road. There's a raised median right here. And these purple are the crosswalks that are here. So for example, if you're here and you wanted to go across the connector road, you would cross, again, one lane of that right turn lane. And this is a raised median. You could go this way and get to this point, and again, you do the same thing. You wait for a vehicle to stop here, and you cross one lane of traffic. Here you got the raised median, and then you, again, same thing. You cross one lane of traffic, and you're on the sidewalk. And you're back here. Again, this is all much wider sidewalk. Same thing here. If you want to cross the street here, vehicles come to a full stop, then you cross. You got the pedestrian refuge island in the center. And then when the vehicle comes in this direction, stops, you continue to cross. And it's the same thing on all approaches. But the key to this, and this is what I'm going to try to show you on these next pictures here, is as much as it about reducing the length of the crosswalk, it's really about sending the message to the motorists that you're coming into an area that's different, that you need to expect to see pedestrians. And so, for example, this is the way it looks today. This is looking at Main Street from Turnpike Road, the Lavin Loggers over on the left-hand side. You can see that's just how wide the pavement is. It's if you're driving through this area, you're not looking for pedestrians in here. And so we put some. So what this will look like when the roundabout goes in is here again. You can see now when you're down here to single lanes. Again, that's the pedestrian refuge island, and that's the crosswalk. The sidewalks are wider. This is that area that I was talking about, over towards the top of the trail. These areas will have much more room for pedestrians to stand out there, and the motorists will, when they come in there, they will expect to see pedestrians and they will expect to see crossing. And in fact, the way this is laid out, they'll be traveling slower because it's designed for that 15 miles per hour. Similarly, there's another picture here. This is Main Street, and what you see as it is today is, I'm sure there are people who, maybe they, if they want to, take a view of the river or so, you could hang out here on the sidewalk, but you can see the sidewalk is pretty narrow. This is down River Street. It's not very hospitable for pedestrians. When the project is complete, what we're talking about is, again, now this 4-lane section is down to a single lane in each direction. We have on-street parking. We've widened out the sidewalks. We actually added on-street parking on River Street. And it's, again, it gives the sense that, this is a place for pedestrians. And if you're driving, this is a place to slow down. And I got one more I would show you. This is down on River Street. So this is River Street heading back to Main Street. This is the area where that second roundabout would be. And so, what this would look like when we're done is this would be this other roundabout, and this is the bridge would cross the Kentucky River over here, heading over to Blake Street. But again, the same type of thing. And so as a motorist is coming into downtown from River Street, the message here is slow down. This is different. You expect to see pedestrians out here. And so that's basically the idea. So when we get back to the plan, so it's really all about trying to make it look and feel different, primarily by providing more sidewalk area, reducing the crosswalks, reducing the travel speeds, and when you look at even the overall area, the idea would be for any vehicles coming in, whether they're coming in from Peterborough Street, coming in from Main Street, Turnpike, Stratton, when they get to these points right in here, this whole area looks different. And again, the idea it'll be safer for pedestrians. So that's where our focus is, in addition to the traffic congestion. So I don't know, do you have any questions on that?
Are you guys gonna be getting rid of the second light?
Yeah, yes, in fact, this light up here would be removed, and there's actually going to be I'm not sure if we've made the actual final decision on this, but we've been evaluating what to put in there, and the thought is that we're gonna put in a four-way stop control here. And again, that idea is the same thing, is that the volume of traffic through here is much, much lower. So one, you don't need the signal. But we still want to make it so that when you get to this point, it's again convenient for pedestrians to cross. And so we want to bring all the vehicles to a full stop. So there would be all four approaches here would be under stop control.
I just have a quick question about like that one that comes, I don't even know the street names. The one that comes this way at your four-way stop, you can't really see around that building.
Yeah. So if you're coming out of River Street, you look to your left, that
Yeah.
building is like right on the corner.
Right.
And it's not a problem today because there's a traffic signal. So we got to the point, we said, well, okay, so we're taking the signal out because it doesn't meet the standard warrants anymore. And the first thing we had to deal with was, okay, so what about the sight line? So that's why we put in the four-way stop. So the four-way stop condition means if you had only a stop on River and stop on North Street and have through traffic here, the sight distance would be a problem because this vehicle would have trouble seeing the oncoming traffic here. When you make it a four-way stop, now you have the stop bars up close to the intersection, and that vehicle is going to stop while waiting for this one to pull out. And so that's the idea of the four-way stop.
It'll be closer so you can
That's
see it
right.
stopping. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. If today, the stop line is like, I mean, what happens is it's way back in here. In fact, when we move this up closer, I think we're even going to be able to pick up another on-street parking space in that area because everything's going to be, closer. Anything else?
How far is the sidewalk going to be down 124 going toward the fire station?
Which way are we heading?
Toward you.
We coming down Turnpike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Currently goes to the post office.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just gonna match in there.
It's just matching it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any thoughts about putting in the area of the crosswalks, any further like lights or just to let people know that people are at the crosswalks or speed bumps and small speed bump areas?
Yeah, I'll tell you, when we went to the public hearing in October of 2019, that was one of, and I think even the town staff had asked us about that. And the question that came up was, could you put in these, what they're called is rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And that is, you may have seen them in some locations where you'd have yield signs up there with these flashing beacons that would come on when a pedestrian gets to the crosswalk, and then they would flash. And basically what they're doing is it's not stopping traffic, it's alerting motorists that there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk. Now, those are used basically for mid-block pedestrian crossings. And so you'll see them a lot on streets that have higher travel speeds, and there's a mid-block crossing, and you want to warn people that there's a crossing at that location. You generally do not put them at roundabouts. And sometimes you may see them in larger roundabouts, two-lane roundabouts, because again, you're crossing two lanes. So it's a different way of crossing a two-lane roundabout versus a single-lane roundabout. Our thought here is that the single-lane roundabouts, the short distance of the crossing, and most importantly, what this entire area is going to look like, again, making it look like there's going to be more pedestrians, that you would not need to have those additional rectangular flashing beacons. Now, I would say, we haven't made final decisions on all this. We're still, having discussions on this, but at this point, my recommendation to the department is that that's not needed here, and that the way that this has been designed is going to make it, is what's going to make it most safe for crossings, pedestrian crossings. Yes.
When do you see this? I don't know if we interrupted you mid-presentation. When do you see this completed? And tell us about the time that the construction plans during the years this takes.
Sure. Toby, do you want to do the construction? I can do it. Let me see. I think I've got a slide here. Yeah, okay. So basically what's going to happen is we expect to, we're still doing final design. And so, you'll see that, hopefully we get all our approvals and so forth by the fall of 2023. So once you get into 2024, we would start with the construction first of the bridge and some of the a portion of the River Street, the second roundabout. And we could do that without affecting any traffic. So you can build a bridge and start building the smaller second roundabout at River Street without affecting any traffic, affecting anything. So you'd see that type of activity in 2024. Into 2025 is where you'll see more of the heavy construction. Where there we would be starting with the construction of the Main Street roundabout, the one at Peterborough Street. And there, in order to do that, we'll build some temporary short roads around that to detour some traffic around during the construction. And then that'll be followed up by building the connector road through kind of the end of 2025. And then probably by, into 2026, there'll be finish up work on Peterborough Street and Stratton and Turnpike Road. So it's probably about a 2.5 year time frame of the construction that will be going on. And once we get further along of the design, and again, we're going to have several public meetings on this, we'll be coming back at public meetings and talking about kind of the traffic control plan, the management plan during construction, during which phases, how we're going to keep traffic moving and how we're going to keep pedestrians moving and how that's all going to work out. So all those details are still to be worked out, but they'll be coming out of future meetings. If you have interest in that, again, we'll let you know when those meetings come. In fact, some of that information, I said we have this email distribution list where we send out newsletters and information that I can add you people to that, to that list as well. So you get that information when it comes out. I mean, the reality is the construction in a downtown, area like this is going to be challenging. There's going to be a couple of year time frame where it's going to be challenging, but you got to get through it. And when it's all done, I think you're going to like the end result.
Okay, so the part that you just covered, and it's good to know that the process will go on in terms of how to handle that traffic. It's a several year period, obviously, of construction, and we'll have our buses and the parent vehicles coming, and also our pedestrians. So that's obviously a big concern to us.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can work with that. In fact, it reminds me of when the buses, I don't know if you know, but back when we were doing the original study and doing the evaluation of different alternatives, one of the things that came up was, at the roundabout, how can you process trucks? Can you process school buses? Can you process fire trucks? We went out and we did a demonstration out at the Conville High School parking lot. And we actually laid that roundabout out to the exact scale. And the bus company came out and brought all its buses and drove through it. And the fire department brought their trucks, and a lot of truckers drove. And, and that was helpful in getting people to feel comfortable. So when we get to the point where we've put the traffic control plans together, we can work with you and show you how those will work. Yes.
So one of the questions that I have for the buses is if there's a 4-way stop at the Main Street River North intersection, come 3 o'clock when all the buses are leaving JGS and are dispersing throughout town, how how quickly are we gonna get them through? Like right now with it having green lights, you can get multiple buses through the intersection fairly quickly. But once you're then one bus and then you stop and have to go around the whole intersection and then the next bus, how much is that going to delay all the buses getting through the intersection?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question because you remember what we're trying to do. This is a balance. So on the one hand, if you may say, well, what we're trying to do is get the buses through as quickly as possible. But at the same time, we don't want any vehicles to be traveling as quickly as possible. We want them to slow down. And so, will there be some maybe additional delay than they would have had if they had a green light and they could all process through? No, they won't be able to do that. They're going to have to go through one at a time. But in the long run, that's safer. And so we can have more discussions on that as we go and show you how that would work. But that's one of the trade-offs that we make, is to try to, to make it safer. You processing traffic faster is not necessarily the best thing.
Going back to the crosswalks, could you talk about how they are designed to be ADA compliant, individuals with visual impairments, going across? And is there anything that's been considered about that?
You're talking specifically for the blind or for the? Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, there's a lot of studies that have been done as far as, roundabouts and the effects of, is it safer or not for pedestrians who are blind? And we have not done anything specific here to, have any kind of like audible indications and so forth. If there's, throughout the entire planning process, the public meetings, that was never raised. If there's an issue there, and if there are those individuals, maybe we need to take a look at that and see if there's some added, but we have not heard that in any of the previous meetings.
Then, Marty, is there a place where there is a roundabout or a system of roundabouts like this that would be roughly similar?
I think I provided a list. There's actually a list on the DOT's website of all the various roundabouts in New Hampshire. I would say that they're all different. I mean, they're unique to the. So, is there something exactly like Jaffrey? No, there's not something exact, but there are other roundabouts in downtown, So again, if it's something that, you wanted some examples, I could send you some, ones that are close, but I would say they're all unique.
Sure. Just thinking in terms of high pedestrian traffic roundabouts where they've got this kind of a 2-lane or 1 lane in each direction set up. That would be the thing would be helpful.
Okay.
There's one in downtown, the college.
Oh, that's right.
Keene State College, there's a number of them in urban environments where you have multiple pedestrians.
And we could, I could get you some pictures and and maybe there's some traffic volumes and pedestrian counts available, so I could get you that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
The line in Keene is actually two-lane roundabout, right? Goffstown just finished construction of a roundabout. Goffstown's got a lot of downtown pedestrians, and would make a nice field trip. Manchester, Vermont has a great downtown roundabout that's handling major traffic coming in, and it's a shopping district. So Manchester, Vermont.
Okay.
Just, I don't know whether you know yet, are the center of the rotaries going to be hard curb or soft? Because depends on where you go. Some places they have them hard, some places they don't.
You talk about the curbing at the
On the
roundabout?
inside of the rotary, yeah.
Yeah, no, it'll be curved. I mean, it'll be slope curved, but it'll be curved.
Slope curb.
There's a lot of trucks that come through.
Yeah, there's how many on these roundabouts? That gray area is what's called a truck apron, where automobiles stay outside it, but large trucks get their wheels up on it and drive right over it. But the inside, that green is you don't drive on it.
So
I'm not certain if I'm directing this question to you or to you, but who provides the crossing guards? Is that a town thing or a school thing?
This year, we have agreed to share that cost. It's a 50-50.
Almost seems like, at least the beginning, we might need a third crossing guard at the five corners. Or someone to help the kids, the younger learners, figure out how to cross that road in the mornings and in the afternoons. I don't know if we could move. I mean, maybe we wouldn't need the one up at School Street. I don't know if there's that much less traffic, but anyway, it seems like we might need a third one, at least to start off with, to help kids learn to use those crosswalks.
How many walkers do you have that go to the elementary school through there?
A fair number, because we drive through there and it's quite a few families who come through. I don't know a number, but.
Yeah, I don't have
20.
a number.
When it gets to that point, if, I don't know if it would help or not, but, we could provide some, I don't know, educational material on how, how you cross use the crosswalks at roundabouts and those types of things. I mean, we've done that in certain areas, so.
Sounds good.
I guess most of the questions are gonna come up when we get to phases of traffic flow with, how's it gonna impact our bus schedule? How's your construction schedule
Yeah.
gonna impact our bus schedule and so forth?
Yeah, and then again, like I said, we're going to be having future meetings and, we'll be providing more information on all of that.
All right, so I was wondering if representatives of the town, Joanne and John, who are here, is there anything that you can add about the sidewalk projects that the town is contemplating in conjunction with this project?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, John. We have the Stratton Road Sewer Project that's pending, that's actually going out to bid, and we're hoping to have bids in by May 11th. If everything goes according to plan, nothing has been doing that since COVID started, but our plan would be that we complete that sewer project this summer. It's all going to be contingent on the bids that we receive and the ability to have a construction project that can meet a timeline. Obviously, we're not going to go and do this in September. That would be less than ideal for the schools. So our plan all along has been to complete the Stratton Road Sewer Project first. And then Joanne's been working on the sidewalk project with the state that would follow. And then following that would be the paving project. So all of this we're trying to do in a manner that it won't interfere with another project, but also won't interfere with the school.
Okay, great.
Talk about the sidewalk piece, Joanne.
Sidewalks have been in the works for quite a while. We did get grant funding to cover 80% of the cost of the construction. And we, between the two sections of DOT, we're coordinating the sidewalk construction with the 4 or 5-way intersections so that we're not building bridges to nowhere, that they're all an integrated project. The extent of the sidewalk upgrade is going to come right up to the first side of the driveway coming into the middle school, high school. So it'll come right up to your parking area. There'll be sidewalks on both sides, curb, then striping. We've been in discussions with Marlon here. It doesn't look like we'd hope to go out to bid this year. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. So likely construction in 2023. And again, we've been sure to have our construction in the summer months so that we're not interfering with the school schedule. If we had to, we could figure a way to do one side or the other so that it would be less cumbersome, but I think it would be better just to be able to do Stratton Road in the summer. The project also includes doing sidewalks all the way out on Peterborough Street out to Ridgecrest. So we will have sidewalks on both sides of Peterborough Street as well as striping and bike lanes. So that's 2023, right, Marlon?
Well, I don't want to say that as yet. No, it could be before, it could be before, it could definitely be before. I'm just gonna have our meeting next week,
Right.
and I'll tell Joanne. So I don't wanna preempt and say we're gonna go on that date, it could be before.
Well, we still want to make sure it's in the summer as much
Yeah,
as possible.
yeah,
So
definitely.
anyway, we'll make sure that we're coordinating around the schedule and make sure that the school district is in the loop for that project. But speaking to rapid flashing beacon signs and crosswalks, we have identified several locations on, maybe not on Stratton Road, but certainly on Peterborough Street, where we will have those rapid flashing beacons, because Peterborough Street has higher speeds for vehicles. So we are looking at those, Peterborough Street anyway. We thought it would be too disruptive on Stratton Road. It's a quieter, more residential street, so maybe still up for discussion. But anyway, we've been making sure that we're coordinating between the two major construction projects. Once the sidewalks are done, then we get the paving done. And then the striping. So it's many projects over many years being coordinated here, so. There are questions on that?
Well, that's very exciting. So thanks for, thanks for the update on that.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions at this time? And if not,
Are you gonna get us on the email distribution list?
yes, Charlie's asking how we can get on the email distribution
Yeah,
list.
John, you can send me whatever, if you collect them, send them to
Sure.
me and I'll add them to the list.
Okay, will do. And then we're going to open up the agenda to to any public who is online who has questions.
Yeah, of course. So this is Nicholas Handy again. I just wanted to explain how folks could make a public comment. So if you are remote, just use the raise hand feature at the bottom hand part of your screen. We can address you that way. Just first name, last name, town of residence, ask your question. We'll be able to hear it in the room, and then we can get an answer for you, or, obviously if you want to make a statement. I did receive a couple chat comments that I'm going to look at right now just to see if those were. Yeah, I have two questions via chat. So do you want me to just read those out loud?
Yes, please.
All right. So we have a question. How many people have been struck by cars in either of those current intersections? Is there any data or anything on that?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any children being struck by it.
All right, so there's an answer to that one. Next one we have, and I think this was already answered, but just what are the considerations of people with visual impairments? Are there lights? Are there lights or audio sounds? And we've addressed that in multiple different ways. So next we have a hand raised from Leslie.
Hi, this is Leslie McLean and Jeffrey. Can you hear me,
Hello.
Nick?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, when a bus is exiting Stratton Road and heading toward Ringe, is it going almost all the way around the traffic circle down to the River Street traffic circle, or is it going across the bridge on 124 and then making the hard left? Has that been determined yet?
Okay.
Yeah, so again, I'm assuming the bus company will make decisions on its own routes, but if I would think if a bus is exiting here and wants to head south on River Street, you would come out, go through the roundabout and do that. But again, they could do whatever they want, but I would think that would be the best route.
So the best practice would be decided by the bus company?
Yeah, these roads are open for anybody to
Okay.
go.
Okay, thank you, Leslie.
All right, next we have Storm.
Hi, Storm Metters, Jaffrey. I was the one with the question about the people with visual impairments. I do think that needs to be a consideration as you guys continue to plan.
All right, thank you, Storm.
Okay, thank you. So that's obviously something we want to keep our eye on.
All right, and last call for public comments on this item. Again, this is public comments specific to the presentation that we just heard. I guess while we're waiting for people to respond, should somebody, because we typically record these meetings, put them up online. If somebody watches this presentation and they have a question, what would be the best way for them to reach out to maybe either provide a comment or to get a question answered?
Yeah, probably the best way to get information would be to go to the department's website. There's in the project center on the website, there's a list of all the projects that we have, and Jaffrey's on there. If you click on that, you'll get, my contact information, email, telephone number. And also there's lots of information on there about the historical process of how we developed the project. And then also new stuff that's coming out, like Marty mentioned, newsletters, conference reports, and that kind of thing. So that's a good way to keep up on the project happenings and to get contact information.
Now, is that the link that you guys had put in the in one of the earlier slides? Okay, I'll link that in the description of the video just for everybody to know. So if you want to go to that, you can find that.
Nick, you can also get to that from the town's website. We have a hot button on our front page, the Route 202 project, it has the DOT link in there as well.
Okay. So yeah, we'll make sure that those links are available to people just so that they can keep up with this project.
Okay. And are there any more comments at the moment?
I am not seeing any.
Okay, thank you, Nick. And so thank you folks for coming out today and providing the update. Very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. We're better with cheesecake.
I didn't know that was an option.
I second it.
I learned how this thing works.
Okay, very good. And so moving on to our regular agenda. And our next item is the superintendent's report.
So thank you. Tonight we'll discuss 4 things. One, just an update on some partnership development with Franklin Pierce University. 2022-23 budget implications. An illness update. We haven't had that for a little bit of time, so I figured I'd update us where we're at with that. And then just a congratulations at the end. So today I actually had a meeting, as we have the last several Mondays, with several professors, a dean over at Franklin Pierce University. We've been meeting in Petroselli, and a group of us here, as well as the individuals over there, have been working together toward some common goals. Our goals within this partnership could be summarized like this. We could word them a little bit differently, but in general, to provide increased leadership opportunities for our teachers, to provide increased support for the district's work in the area of personalizing learning, instruction for all learners, to support current and future teachers in the continuous improvement of their craft. So again, current individuals through leadership opportunities, but also having a bit of a, you could call it a pipeline, but as many individuals who come through in the area of student teaching would still go back to their where they're from. A lot of people return home, whether it be Massachusetts or Vermont or wherever they would come from, New York. But some do choose to stay around in the area, and we have had the fortune of hiring some of these individuals in the past couple of years. And then to recruit and maintain highly effective teachers. So the next slide. This is a linear look at a concept that is not totally linear. I'll explain that it's just easier to look at it this way, in that the general idea would be that we are building a partnership where we become more of a primary use of the college in the area of their pre-service teaching, as well as supporting us and them with some of their graduate students as well. Through this partnership, we already have, for instance, anyone working in this district, if they were to go and do their schooling online with Franklin Pierce University, they would have an automatic 20% reduction in their tuition due to our work together. So there's benefits for our staff that way. Generally speaking, when individuals, really in most schools of higher ed in the education department, start to enter schools or start to take classes, methods courses, anything of that nature, it's usually in their second year. So sophomore year, they do use the term sophomore, junior, and senior over at Franklin Pierce University. Some colleges use first year, second year, and so forth, students. So in their first methods course, what we're proposing for next year, and we'll be presenting on this coming up to the teachers, is that we're actually going to be holding the methods course at one of our elementary schools. So the professors will be coming from the school, will be coming there to our school. We'll be providing them space, providing some use of technology, and then the ability, of course, to then have those individuals stay after their coursework and to do their hours of observation and what we're calling active observation. So not standing in the back of the classroom or sitting in the back of the classroom, just kind of watching and clocking in the hours, but actually have some value, some input into what's going on. And then the next year, many of those individuals, now understanding that different people have different schedules, different majors and so forth, or they also have extracurricular type of activities. So not all schedules can be so perfect, but many of those individuals, the idea would be to remain within our district and continue on their junior year and then likely their senior year, so that we'd have a great number of individuals by the time they're in their student teaching in our schools, not only in our elementaries, but actually our secondary as well. Although probably a smaller amount in secondary, just because there are fewer secondary ed students, that they will have come through, understood our culture, have been part of our professional development, have been part of our learning and growth experiences, understand the people and know the people whom they're working with, as well as our teachers would be understanding and knowing them as well. So there will be relationships that we've built over time. The idea would be that they would have then a greater impact on our learners, on supporting our infrastructure and our teachers, as even while they're sophomores and juniors, but especially when they are here for a longer period of time, which is like an entire semester working in the classrooms. There are many advantages to this. Certainly, we started this conversation seriously about partnerships a couple years ago, and then we started to implement a little bit last year. We had a presentation with our staff down in RMS and JGS And really, it was more who's interested in going forward, taking a more organic approach, less mechanical approach to saying, all right, let's have some people who are interested in seeing what the possibilities are with this. And I'm very excited to say that we had several takers, both in the area of taking sophomores and junior students, as well as some student teachers this year. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a little while. So the next steps of this partnership development, if we go to the next slide, would be that this Wednesday, we're going to be presenting, I say we, a couple individuals from the college, as well as myself. I think Jen Horn, as special education teachers, get into the mix with this as well. And she's been on this committee that's been working on this. Nick won't be there, but Nick's work is going to be there. So he has some exciting, he's putting together a presentation. Part of our 15-minute presentation will be a 3 to 5 minute video that captures several of our teachers and their student teachers or method students, as well as just some video of them in action working with our learners. And so Nick's done some interviewing, he's done some recording, he's going to do some editing to make sure that it all flows well together, and that will be presented as well, so that people can see and also know who to go and talk to and ask, hey, how has this been? How has this been already in our district? And who else might like to continue to join in this partnership? The Monday, October, where that came from, April. October is 6 months after April. It's a half year thing. But April 18 would be that the planning team is going to reconvene. So we're not going to meet next Monday. We're going to take a break from that. We have some individual assignments we have to work on. We'll go back. We'll talk more about professional development, as we want more individuals to take on these active roles in mentoring out these student teachers and younger college students, that we're also going to want to make sure that everyone's prepared to be able to do that work. By June 1st, we'll have determined all of that needs to take place. And we're currently working on a memorandum of understanding between the two organizations to look at what their responsibilities are, what our responsibilities are, if there's any ever cost sharing that could take place. We have some ideas of incentivizing our teachers. It wouldn't cost the district very much, but it would mean a lot to our teachers to be able to take on these students, as it's going to be an extraordinary value, in a sense, for free for the two schools over a period of time. The next area that I'd like to talk about is the 2022-23 budget implications. And so due to we know here that due to the results from the voting, that we do have to operate under a default budget, which is a little over $500,000 below what we had proposed. That also was really, even if we had that proposed budget, because of the way that things are going economically and inflation, that we were going to have to look at how we were going to handle that anyway, responsibly. And so as we look at that target number, around approximately $850,000 that we would need to account for to make sure that we're funding all the operations that we need to continue to move forward and make sure that we're successful, but also taking into consideration that we need to pay our bills. So our goal was to do this, to save that, but also minimally, or maybe have no impact on personnel and or programming loss. So we started to work on reductions, and we've had some conversations at the administrative level, at both there and at the finance committee. And we came up with this process. we were aided by the creative work of the middle high school, the administration and the staff there, saying here's a problem, but rather than looking at it as a problem to solve, we're looking at it as a possibility. These are opportunities. So opportunities that are going to require quite a bit of work. And I know that there's a pretty intense professional development regimen that is starting tomorrow within this organization to continue for a long period of time to make sure that everyone gets what they need. But the good news is these are the things we wanted to do anyway. And so this perhaps sped the process up a little bit. And through that process, we were able to remove 4 positions at the middle school, high school, and with minimal loss. And we'll talk about what that impact is on the next slide. And then at RMS and JGS, back in December, we had talked about removing possibly 5 or 6 individuals from the elementary setting, that just to handle if we had the default budget and didn't even think about these other costs that we were going to have. And in doing so, we could have stayed within the policy numbers that the board has set forth in both schools if we had removed 2 from JGS and 4 from RMS. And that's what it would take in order to get to that 850,000, 4 from middle school, high school, 4 from RMS, and 2 from JGS. That was the idea. The finance committee looked at that, and we have a parent on the finance committee as well who saw the difference in the ratio of staff to student. And so while we would be able to stay within those numbers, if we had 4 individuals removed from RMS, we would have class sizes, as long as we just move our numbers up, so the projection of approximately 20 to 21 per class. There are schools in the area where those are great numbers for elementary. Those aren't what we're typically used to, and certainly we've tried to make sure that, especially through K through 2, K to 3, we try to keep it in that 17 category. And so the removing of the 2 RMS positions does keep us within that 17 to 18 students per class. Some classes will be less, some will be a little bit more. And then JGS very similarly. They're probably a solid with this reduction of 17 per class, maybe 16. So in order to not take those other 3 positions away, we looked at where are the areas that if we were to somehow find the money and prepay would make sense. So we have about not quite $250,000 in retirement related costs that we need to pay out next year. And so our goal right now is to be able to take as much of that away as possible. We have a little bit of wiggle room, but our goal is still around that 227, 225 and take care of the whole thing. What we did we had to act fairly quickly. It was a very stressful time for our schools. And basically we shut spending down a month earlier than typical. And we also gave them about a week less time than we normally would to give them the opportunity to put all the budget transfers and making sure everything was situated to be able to plan for the rest of the school year. I will say, I have to say, thank goodness for the work that has been done to make things more efficient in a digital way, because it could have taken a lot longer and had a lot more confusion. Leslie, who spoke earlier actually in the public, has brought in a lot of expertise around our Frevo system, and then of course the business department had implemented its new iVisions. We're still working on both of those to improve those areas, but it has sped the process up with fewer mistakes, so greater efficiency. Now, if we go to budget implications on staffing impact, because it's nice to be able to figure out a plan as to how to get this money and to save that, but we also had as part of our goal to not have a very large staffing impact. So while positions might go away, how do we account for those? So at JRMS CHS, this new model that was proposed and has been accepted, and I believe this Thursday, the first formal meeting on that and presentation and question and answer session is going to happen here on Thursday, is we will have a reduction of 1. So the board has already actually, even tonight, will shift individuals to different positions and who are already in this school. And so their jobs, they'll just be in a different role. And in perhaps some roles that they've been asking to kind of be doing anyway for quite some time, which is neat. At RMS, there will be 2 reductions in force. However, we also have 2 new open co-teaching roles to fill in that area. Now, the co-teaching roles would require that the individuals want to go forward and get first of all, a statement of eligibility, but then some certification over a period of years in special education. But this is a different type of role, and the job description is being worked on as we speak, is that it would mimic more of a classroom teacher role, because you'd be teaching along, like the class, along with another person teaching the class. And there are about 5 solid models of co-teaching. There are 6. If you were to Google it, you'd see 6, but one of them I would disregard as not being very effective. And there were 5 really good models that can be effective. So the teachers will be teaching and regrouping the students based upon the data that they find formatively. And JGS is similar with that, where they will have a new co-teaching role. So there's yet another one that needs to be filled. And even though we're reducing the position at JGS, we don't have to have a reduction in force at JGS. So some of these reductions, like at JGS, we've had either individuals retire or resign. And so that's helped this situation. And in this case with JGS, there was retirement in the lower grade levels. And so that's not being replaced. The next slide that was a staffing impact. The next slide is learner impact. So you're reducing 7 positions. That's not easy to do without impacting things negatively. And had we stayed in the same kind of model and the same thinking, it would have we would have had to have reduced some of our programming. In JRMS and CHS, there's always some possible pitfalls when you change models. The JRMS, the model will support lower class sizes. And so actually RMS, JGS, and JRMS will have very similar averages of class sizes. So about that 17 or 18 to 1 ratio. CHS, they actually have, by and large, had good class sizes. This should not change that significantly. There are always some classes that are larger and other classes that are smaller, and it has a lot to do with choice. But as from a learner standpoint, because right now you have a 7-period day, and over a year in a block, you have 8 possibilities of doing things. You do have more opportunities. Granted, more opportunities, and it's going to take some getting used to, both on the learner side of things and to make sure that the professional development and the planning and preparation is done ahead of time for the staff. And then the last major category here is the JRCSD illness update. That would be our district. And we haven't talked about that in a while. COVID numbers have been pretty low. This is a bar graph, a stacked bar graph, where we have each bar is 1 day in the school. So the first cluster is CHS. The second cluster of bars is JRMS, then JGS, then RMS. And each of those bars within those clusters is a day or a day's worth of data on illness. The bottom color are individuals who, because COVID's still a thing, we still have requirements that we have to go through with quarantining, family members as well as individuals who have symptoms. And so they're out for a period of time while they're getting tested. And we do have that middle value there, color, the yellow, that is the individuals who are COVID positive. And then the top one is all other types of illnesses. And so that we can see that over this past week, there was some, and I say that last week, there was an uptick. I would say, CHS stayed fairly stable, a little bit higher toward, in the middle of the week. JRMS rose each day with absenteeism due to some form of illness. Thursday and Friday were the same. JGS really had the greatest impact. Again, not a lot of COVID, but a lot of stomach virus or, maybe some flu as well, some symptoms, a variety of things, high fevers in the elementary, to the point that we were really watching kind of the percentage of individuals absent due to illness. And we'll look at that on the next slide. And then RMS had an increase in illnesses as the week went on, but was lower in those other areas. If we take a look at the next slide, you can see just a comparison from Friday. You can, in our matrix, if we were still doing the masking a place due to illness and 20%, we were basically 1/4% off from hitting that at Jaffrey Grade School. Had we had a couple more kids who were in that category, we would have been at 20%, and they hovered there for a couple of days. And then you can see the difference that a weekend makes. We're now kind of stabilized across the district again, still JGS at 9%. We don't often see our schools go over 10%, but that's still, still up there. But there has been some illness going around, especially at our 2 elementary schools for some of the illness in that top brown category. Very similar symptoms. And then the last slide, which I'm not sure is, oh, you have it. For whatever reason on my computer, it does not exist. I just want to say a big congratulations to our very own Nikki Fraley and to RMS, to Ringe Memorial School. I think this is a great match. This is very exciting. I went around on Thursday, I guess Friday. Thursday, as you are aware, the board made the motion and accepted the nomination of Nikki Fraley as the principal. So I went around and told everyone individually on Friday that this was the case. People were excited. We are going to be planning now a community event for a meet and greet. That's the next item that we're going to be doing. But for next year, she's accepted the role and is excited and is thrilled that she's going to be spending her days in Ringe at the Ringe Memorial School with the learners there and all of the staff. So congratulations to the school and to Nikki and to the community. Also, special thanks within that to the individuals who were on that committee. I think it was a very nice process. We had a few situations that were kind of up and down, but our final result was really strong. And that's my report for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Ruben. Questions? Anybody have any questions for Ruben on anything we covered? Lisa?
How was staffing at JGS this last week with nearly 20%? Holy crap.
Well, it depends on what you mean by how was staffing.
Like, how did
I
they
think,
staff it?
I think that it's
Where
amazing
were the-
enough,
where were the
amazing enough
people?
our staffing attendance has been much better than, say, January, February, over this last month and even last week. There have been some individuals who've gotten sick, and I would say, how was staffing? I think it's nerve-wracking to have a lot of illness in your school.
Yeah. I'd like to congratulate you on the efforts made by your team to get the budget situation addressed with a plan that seems to have some real creativity and energy behind it.
Yeah, well, we are going to have to, I mean, the work has just started. We're going to have to be very frugal for the rest of this year. We have, a possibility, our range right now, with just looking at the numbers, depending on, whether we get money back from FEMA, which I guess we're the only place in the state that went after that for that specific day, that specific storm. So we are we're moving along the process. I believe it was our fire chief in town who provided us with this information, and we followed up on it about FEMA as a possibility. I believe it was Dave Chamberlain, and if so, I want to thank him for that information. That we've been following up on that for quite a while, but the process has continued, and we may get 58,000 back from all that we spent, which is really nice. And if we don't have that in the guarantee, it changes our numbers at the end. So we could be looking at a deficit if everything was spent. So even if we had say a $25,000 to $50,000 deficit, we'd still be in good shape. We just wouldn't be, I wouldn't say deficit. We're not going to have a deficit, but you wouldn't allow that to happen. But we'd be able to kind of work with that. If it were more, there are some other things that we'd have to consider doing. But again, there's typically toward the end of the year when all the POs are closed and all the spending is truly done, you see that those numbers go up again into the positive. It's tight. It's a tight year. There's a lot of things that have happened this year, but I'm optimistic, and I think that we can make this work.
All right, great. Christine?
Ruben, I know you've talked about this quite a bit, and somehow this question is just dawning on me now, but can you explain a little bit more about the co-teaching model? And so you were saying that you would basically have two teachers in a classroom, but one would be more directed to the learners with extra needs. Is that correct?
Well, the first part of it is correct. You would have two certified individuals, teachers in a classroom. Two people hopefully have some good teaching classroom experience. One of them would be a special educator who would be responsible for a little bit more support of some of the individuals with higher needs and who are identified. But the idea of if co-teaching is successfully implemented, then you would not know who is working with whom. And so it would not be the special education teacher working with the students with special needs. It would be mixing that up continuously based upon need in the specific subject area, specific topic area, need based upon relationship needs. So you're constantly moving it around. So you might have, for instance, let's say you have 22 kids in a class, because you can actually increase your numbers in that classroom, which helps the rest of that grade level to have lower class sizes. So you have this 1:11 ratio. And so one model is a parallel teaching model. So parallel meaning, the kind of, they don't intersect, but they're on opposite sides of each other. But there's also this element, this kind of idea of the sameness. So you might have, 11 individuals over here, 11 individuals over here. They're mixed, and they're teaching the exact same lesson, but just in different areas. Then you could also, take that model. They might teach it in different ways. And so you could actually switch those students, or what would probably be a better option is the teachers actually just make a movement over to the other side. There's something called an alternative model. So sometimes, especially during COVID, we've had situations where kids have either missed school or they're behind in a subject area. And so while a class is working on something, maybe with the, you might have 15 individuals working on an assignment, these other individuals over here, special ed or not special ed, but they're behind on some areas, can gain that extra personalized support. And then you have a model, probably the best model out there on a regular basis is that team teaching or collaborative teaching model, where both are actually in teaching the same lesson at the same time. They're just finishing each other's sentences, clarifying questions, thinking about, like, if I taught something and I phrased something that was maybe perhaps a little confusing for some individuals, the other teachers watching that and saying, well, that's a really great idea, but do you mean, and explaining that. And so making sure that even when if the students are having difficulty asking questions, the questions are being asked by the other person, and they go into that dialogue and engage the kids. So they're both active at the exact same time. And they're both responsible for grading. They're both responsible for everything. They just share the responsibilities.
Would that be in a bigger classroom?
That's a good question. Yeah, so if you had a classroom like this would be an ideal type of location for that sort of model. You'll have to do the best with what we have, and certainly we would want to look at the bigger options, the larger options.
Okay.
Yeah, I've co-taught several times and have taught some co-teaching classes. It can be done in typical size classrooms. It gets a little bit noisy at times, but what we find is that the learners are able to block out that noise because they're more focused in on what's going on, and they feel a lot safer about asking questions in smaller groups.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Ruben at this time? Okay.
I would
Yes,
just, I looked down, I didn't look up in case somebody was like, I'm in awe of the FPU partnerships. That is an incredibly creative solution to something that this district and FPU both have struggled with for decades, trying to get a quality student mentorship program going. I can't even get over how creative a solution this is, and how exciting it is. I can't wait to see it broadened to the middle school and the high school. I really would like to see them come into the middle school in particular, but I get that you got to start, in one place and really do that well, and then expand where that's needed. But I cannot wait to see, and that you're starting it this month, that you're starting it Wednesday.
Well, starting the next iteration of it. So
Yeah.
doing more presentation, more recruitment. We have the numbers that they're looking for. So we have an opportunity to, that no one else has right now to be able to gain the numbers and the college's support at the same time.
Yeah, I'm so pleased to have, I did not expect today to have such a positive aspect happening in all areas. I didn't know about the sidewalk project. I only knew about the rotaries. I didn't know that sidewalk project was even happening, and that they've prioritized that. Our sidewalks are critical for our kids, and that they've prioritized that was very exciting. This information you're giving us here, I mean, that you did this in a few weeks. And I'm looking at you, Ruben, because you're sitting here, but Carrie, if you're listening, and the work you guys have done at the business office and the finance office is awe-inspiring. You guys are an incredible team. The admin, you're an incredible team. I can't even believe what you've accomplished, given so little. I'm just in awe. I truly am. I'm taken aback by this team that you guys have.
Thank you. And if we just go, Nick, and I'll spend 30 seconds on this too. That slide that has the FPU longitudinal partnership work. So while that's happening, it's not a cohort model. It might evolve into that. So we're taking it, and like I said, we're doing an organic change process, let it happen naturally. So we're not forcing the cohort, but at the same time as those sophomore methods might be in a school, so might you have juniors in the school as well as student teachers in the school. So you could have 2 to 3 layers of individuals. Technically, there's another set of layers. We didn't talk much about those graduate options. That's a whole nother phase of the partnership. It's kind of separate, but and we've dabbled with some of those graduate options already. As for instance, we have on our staff, we have hired an individual for this year anyway, who is finishing up her master's degree at the college online, and she works full-time here as a special educator. So it works both ways. So not just going completely into debt while you're trying to pay for your schooling. As we know, schooling is extremely expensive.
Okay, well, thank you, Lisa, for your comments. And if there are no more comments, thank you, Ruben, and we'll move on to our consent agenda. And so do we have a motion to approve the amended consent agenda? Yes, Charlie.
Do you want to make a motion to remove the March 31 non-public minutes?
Yes, okay. So would you make that motion? Are you making that motion?
Do you want to make the motion, Paul?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, very good. Thank you, Charlie. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Very good.
So I'll make a motion. Want to go?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
And second, Charlie? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we accept the non-public minutes for March 31st. That's the
Yep.
date.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Everybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain. You weren't here.
Abstained, yeah.
Okay, so that passes 6 in favor and 1 abstention. Good. All right, and then we want to move on to the nominations. And so we need a motion to
I'll
accept
make a
the
motion
nomination.
to accept the nominations.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstain? Okay. All right, so that motion passes 6-0. And
Lisa's recused herself.
I'm sorry, Charlie, what's that?
Lisa has recused herself.
Nick, did you
Yes.
catch that I recused myself? So it's 6-0?
Right, as opposed to an abstention, she recused herself, so it's
Correct.
6-0. Okay, very good. And then the minutes for March 31st.
I'll make a motion.
We already have a motion for that. We have the consent agenda as amended. We have the non-public for the
Okay.
31st, and we have the JRE nomination. So I
We
believe
made
that
the
completes.
motion to remove it from the agenda. From the consent agenda. I believe.
No, because we had talked about all stated.
Yeah, I abstained.
Correct. You're
I moved
absolutely
it.
correct.
Yeah, I moved.
I can't keep track of what's going on.
All right, so Nick, thanks for keeping an eye on this, and very good. So we're moving on then. And thank you, everybody. So next on our agenda is discussions for the 2022-2023 school district calendar. And Ruben, do you want to take us through that?
Well, this is just the second time we've kind of looked at this. We've had some feedback. I don't think it's changed since the last time I proposed this. Really, what I will say, we were looking for a way to not have school on. So let's do it. Let's not use a double negative. We are looking for a way to have school on some of these voting days. It's tough to lose 3 like that. And they're usually very awkwardly, put in the middle of the week, on a Tuesday. So that's unfortunate. The rules around, for instance, remote learning, we thought maybe we could go that avenue, this really doesn't fall in place. I suppose if we were able to get, the entire community's backing on making that a remote day, then we'd probably be okay. But apart from really weather, it's not very easy to do. So that's just something to think about for down the road. There is a difference. Most of this is very similar to what we have this year. There is a difference in that this past year, we had 3 early releases for the elementary. And again, this coming Wednesday is one of them. And we'll be presenting, and there's been a lot of good work happening during that time frame. I think the education committee will probably be getting some presentations at some point on some of this. A lot of the work kind of is parallel with a lot of the work that's been going all year long at the middle high school in the area of curriculum and data work. We did have a presentation at the education committee. I think it was 2 presentations ago, and was on professional learning communities. And there we talked about the need for that focused time for our professionals to be able to meet, to discuss, to analyze, and to make plans and adjust. And so this calendar puts another one of those days in there. It proposes that, so you have 4 for the elementary schools. Again, the reason why we're doing it for the elementary schools and not the entire district is because the middle school, high school schedule allows for this type of time. Also, there's a different requirement for the number of hours that elementary schools have in comparison to the hours that secondary schools have to be in session working on academics. The difference being lower for elementary and higher needs for the secondary.
Okay.
It's as close to Conval as we could get it. It's a little bit further away from Messinic. I don't believe that bill has passed yet, because there is a bill out there to make sure that we're within 5 days of the other schools that are in the CTE programming that we are part of. We're pretty close. I think we're within 7 based upon this, but even when our school is not in session, our learners can still go over to the CTE program at the other school and vice versa. And that does happen.
Okay, and so thank you for that update. I guess we don't need any action on that at the moment.
Yep, just we'll get some more feedback, and then if you have some feedback, look it over a little bit more, and then if we can vote on it at the next meeting, that would be good.
Okay. Very good.
Can I ask just to
Yes.
just provide feedback real quick?
Please.
There really is no way in September 13th to make that some sort of a school day, that primary day. Hardly anybody
I
comes out to
know.
vote.
We
That is
talked about that
painful.
that was one of our days that was not in alignment with the other schools, because they felt that, I don't remember if they made it a PD day or a school day, but they indicated that that was a very low traffic event. And if it's that low traffic, could we do that? We have a policy that still would not allow us to have it here, or at RMS if we have any sort of traffic like that. in the
Can we do a
schools. So-
half-day remote day? A half-day, I'm serious,
That-
like a
well, that-
practice remote day.
Remote day, what is the problem? It's a policy of
Yeah,
weather.
let me get the commissioner's response.
That's not our decision.
Yeah, it's not our,
Oh.
it's not,
Department of Ed.
I can look for
Department
this
of Ed
while
decides.
we're going on, but basically he provided me the rules. And if I read the rules to you, you'd see that
Mhm.
there's not a lot of wiggle room on that. Because I thought that was a great idea.
They went like this to
Yeah.
this,
Yeah, they did.
as far as
They,
remote was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, everybody's got to have it, and the next time you turn
Yeah.
around, nobody can have it.
yeah, exactly.
If they come to school to pick up a muffin and then go home to do the work,
Specifically a muffin. If you give a moose a muffin, that's the first thing that popped into my head was that book, right? It was a great series. Of
there's
books.
no way. I wish that there was some way that somebody could figure that one out. That's a hard one to lose right at the beginning of school.
It's very
3
difficult.
days, 1 week, 4 days, 1 week, 4 days, 1 week with a split. It's hard.
It would almost be nice to have an alternative location to vote that people,
that.
because it's not high traffic, yes.
So I
So-
know.
Well,
in-
I know,
So
I'm
we
hitting
have a
on something here.
Thanksgiving recess, we
Yeah.
have a winter recess, we have a holiday recess, we have a spring recess, and we have a winter recess. So we've got recesses up the gazoo. I mean, that's 20 days right there where kids are not in school. Why aren't we saying, how come we can't get them in school for those 20 days?
What's the problem with finding an alternative place?
So that's what I was gonna ask. I know in Jaffrey, at certain times, they've done the elections at the VFW. Is there a secondary location in Ringe that
Nope.
theirs can be done?
Fire department, it's the rec department. There
Oh,
is,
the rec
the rec department can handle it.
Oh, I think
You will
exactly.
have difficulty changing it, the venue in range. I will tell you that. All three selectmen will be down here in a drop of a hat.
I think it would be difficult.
And
for
the
Jaffrey
police
as well.
chief has already said that there is no way that you can protect children based on a layout of RMS when you have an election going on. You have kids crossing voters to go to the cafeteria.
Yep.
Any non-custodial parent, kid could run up to them, they could walk out the door, and you would have no control over that. So,
Outdoor Learning Day, September 13th, glorious weather.
There you go,
I
field
vote for
days,
that.
Yep.
field days everywhere. Take everybody up to what used to be Monadnock Bible Conference and love it. My second piece of feedback, I brought it up a couple of times. I really would like it to be pursued of the idea for the 29th and 30th of August to be utilized as soft opening days where students schedule times with their families to come in and speak with the teachers. It's for no more than 10-minute increments. It is not a grading time. It is a time to get to see the classroom, get to see where their locker is and pick up paperwork. Learn how to do the paperwork, learn, have a face-to-face person saying, please fill out this free and reduced lunch form. Get that human interaction right off the bat for the middle and high school. It's so important to give them time to be able to really touch base and say, this is the changes, this is where your classrooms are. I know that there's always orientation things built in, but to do it with your family, what we do at Monadnock is so extraordinary for building this family teacher community connection. It is really special. They've done it for a couple years now, and I honestly cannot recommend this highly enough that we take the time to make that happen.
That comes out of teacher workshop time.
It would come on the 29th and 30th. So yes, so teacher workshops are the 24th to the 29th. So this would be those last 2 days. And it doesn't take the whole day. you're talking a couple hours here in the morning and a couple hours in the afternoon, and so maybe, yeah, I don't know, what, 3 hours, 4 hours total out of the school day of each of those days. And not everybody shows up, but we've had an incredible turnout, and it's really built in a really neat community.
The adopted rule on February 18th, 2022, distance education, which is what this, some of this conversation falls into, may be offered only, number one, when inclement weather makes it unsafe to safely transport students to or from in-person instruction, or as an option for a parent or guardian making a request for distance education. And then there's a bunch of subpoints underneath that one, but so you, if all of our parents and guardians were to request.
It
that,
said
we could do it.
a parent. I'm a parent of a
Yeah.
teacher in the district, and I make.
Yeah, I think the intent is for their child, but
Yeah.
I suppose I could give them a call.
All right. So,
I have
Thank
another
you.
just simple
Yes,
question regarding the
Daisy.
calendar. Is there any particular reason why we no longer have Columbus Day off in October? I know last year was to help with getting the days that we were losing in the beginning of the
Mhm.
year. But I didn't know if there's a,
We would have
Another
have,
reason
if
why
we didn't
it's-
have that third event, the third voting, we would have had that day this year. Yeah.
okay, so these are the constraints we have.
I mean, we can have it. We just have to look at the end of the calendar to decide if you want to change those days. You know, you can throw in more days off.
As the weather could do.
Too many now.
Yeah, Charlie doesn't want anything that takes the kids away from learning.
Charlie says cut all orange days.
And those orange days are by and large consistent with the other schools, which is good.
Um,
Are
And-
they, I'm sorry,
Yes, please go ahead.
the vacations. I know this year we happen to be the same as Massachusetts. Are these opposite Massachusetts now? Do we know anything about that? It does make it really difficult when we're the same as Mass. I think they're
I
off,
feel
but-
we're opposite
I feel
next
like they're-
year.
I think so
that,
too.
yeah, I think that,
I think
I don't want to say
I
something
know.
incorrect, but I believe we're opposite next year. I know that Vermont also, we kind of, I think we go back and forth as a state. We tend to be an alternating state lately. Yeah, and these are based upon the state suggestions.
Okay. And Lisa's proposal on the 29th and 30th.
Mhm.
What do you think about that idea? Or is that something that should be?
Yeah, I need to
considered,
bring
or-
that back to a couple different groups to talk about. So I would go back to the JREA leadership as we have some conversations whenever we talk about the calendars as well as the administration. I would need to talk about that with them. I have no issue with the idea.
But if it's affecting PD days, that might be.
Well, I don't know about, again, the 29th and 30th, that might be we might have to look at the days, but the concept is what I'm saying, is the concept of
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. So if there's no more discussion on that, we'll bring this calendar back for approval at our next meeting. And then we have an action item relating to the district photographs and identification cards.
Okay, so we went out to bid. We had, I think, 3 different groups bid on this. One, I don't believe was as strong as the other 2. 2 were very similar to one another. And let me pull this up so that I can accurately give information. So we had O'Connor Studios, Geskis, and LifeTouch. We've, over the last several years, have used Geskis. We have had LifeTouch in the past, and we went away from them because Geskis had a really, I think, neat proposal. The recommendation is to return to LifeTouch, primarily, really a couple different reasons. One was just lack of satisfaction over the last couple of years, this last year in particular, a lot of mistakes made with name tags and having pictures need to be we had a lot of retakes in comparison to before. Quality this past year was a concern for many, this school in particular. Individuals were scheduling pictures, and then the people weren't there to take the pictures at the time that we had. So you're making up your entire schedule to try to based upon a specific time, and they weren't. So that's really where it is at. I understand that all these companies have difficulties and they're going to run into some problems. LifeTouch had a few different additions that the other ones didn't have that we thought would be helpful to our families, and that was the Shutterfly gifts. So if that would be like mugs or mouse pads or anything like that, so that parents could or guardians could say, hey, I'd like to get these things for gifts, or to just have them myself, and or to embarrass my children with family mugs with their third grade photos on them. And so there is some benefit to the district if people do purchase from that, but really the main reason is because it was felt that it would be a service that we don't currently have. They also, as kind of a side benefit, we're still in the process of looking about how we do things better from a safety standpoint with ID badges and entrances and so forth. LifeTouch looks like they have a little bit better of an approach to making sure that we can get IDs all the way through the course of the year, so that we're not having individuals who work, say they join 2 months into it, go, well, you work here, but you'll have to wait to have a picture ID until the following time you have a photo. So there is a way to digitally upload some pictures. We could take a picture and then they would give it to us. That being said, we may not use that because we're looking at another option of just doing it ourselves to make sure that we can, as part of the onboarding process, everyone gets that. Because I think it's important for us to be able to have everyone with a badge.
Okay.
So we recommend that we award the bid to LifeTouch for next year.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions about that?
And it is for a 2-year period.
Okay. And Ruben, what's the nature of the award? It's a contract with them. What's the monetary value, or?
Monetary value really is, we're not really paying anything out to them. We're offering a service. So they have very similar packages for families. They have a cheaper package and some more expensive packages. Both will allow you to purchase online. We do get, both of them provide us with some revenue should certain behaviors take place, such as, like, for instance, Shutterfly. Let's say we have this situation where, I don't know, 100 families buy, from that, then this 10% additional discount to families who will spend over, $65. I believe we get some sort of kickback in a 8% commission. That's what we get. So we get 8% of the commission through those.
And Nick, do you have some information?
Yeah, we do have Leslie McLean Still on. She was the one that handled this process. So she had just reached out. She didn't know if she could have an opportunity just to speak to some of this potentially.
Sure, I think it would be fine to have Leslie chime in, please.
All right, you should be good to go, Leslie.
Hi, everyone. Okay, the Life Touch and Guest both pay us a 20% commission on portraits that are ordered. Life Touch will pay 10%, however, in the spring. It's a little lower in the spring if we do spring pictures. The Shutterfly tie-in is basically that each school will have a custom link that we can send out to parents. And so you can order anything you want from Shutterfly. It doesn't have to involve your student pictures, but you can involve your student pictures and order whatever you want from Shutterfly, whatever pictures you want. But if you order them through our link, then the school makes an 8% commission. So that I know that opportunity was at least in the old proposal documents from years ago, but I don't know if it was ever actually used. But that could generate quite a bit of funds, I would think, especially around holiday time. And they all have, both companies have print shop expenses that they give us. So if we want to print banners and things like that, we have an allowance. So they're both considered like large print houses for us if we have some type of special project. And I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. All right, so do we want to take some action on this? We need a motion.
Make a motion to accept. Life
I'll make
Touch.
a motion that we appoint Life Touch as a vendor
Yeah.
for pictures, student pictures and badges.
I'll second it.
Okay,
It's all good.
thank you, Kim, thank you, Charlie, thank you, Paul. And all those in favor, signify. Aye. All opposed? Okay, that carries 700.
Did I interrupt something?
Not at all. You did a great job. Thank you.
No, it was,
I don't think
She
you
was,
can
she was
hear me.
about to make the motion and then you did, so it was fine.
Yeah, you probably couldn't hear me.
It's been a while since you've made one, so.
I know. That's why I was trying to do it.
all right.
There's only so many seconds of hesitation and somebody's got to make a motion.
All right.
Quicker next time.
Well, and you know, these meetings have gotten long, although we're doing a little bit better than last time. So let's keep going. All right, so good. Now we're on to proposed committee assignments. And I think you've all received this. This was part of the agenda. One of the things we want to do is make sure that these assignments work for everybody. And then another thing we want to do is talk about the meeting times so that we can make sure that everybody can make these meetings. So does anybody have any questions about their assignments?
Can we just go down the list on what time they are?
Yeah, okay. So let's go down and do that. Education, I think, Ruben, you usually schedule those, is that right?
Currently, Mr. Dustin is the one in charge of that committee. So he schedules them and I believe, they start, well, this is really the first year it's been more consistent. So I don't know as though there is a set date that is preferred.
I think Charlie's got some insight.
Second Tuesday, 4:30.
What's
Okay.
that?
Second Tuesday, 4:30.
The second Tuesday of the month? At 4:30, okay.
That's what he's been doing. That's what David's been doing.
Second Thursday. David just texted me.
Second, excuse me. You're right. Second
Oh.
Thursday.
Second
What did I say?
Tuesday.
Ah,
It was the other.
second
T.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It happens, okay. So second Thursday,
Too
4:30.
late. It's after 9 o'clock.
He said it's okay.
My bedtime.
I gotcha.
All right, very good.
Second Thursday. Yeah, at 4:30 you said?
I think
Okay, so that affects
I'll have to get
Daisy,
it up.
Kim, and Charlie. That works for you? Okay,
Yes, I'll make it work.
okay, thank you. Okay, facilities. We have been meeting on the third Monday And I believe it's usually at 10 a.m. 10 to 12. I will say that we have been somewhat flexible on a number of occasions where John Leclerc or others are busy, or where we've just decided for other reasons to, move the meeting. And what we try to do in that case is to, give everybody advance notice and ask to make sure that the change of date works. And we stay with the Monday, just sometimes move that Monday around.
Okay, that works.
That's fine.
Okay, great. Finance Committee.
Finance is the third Thursday at 1 or 1:30.
Generally 1:30, as I recall.
It used to be 1:30, yes.
Okay. And by the way, as you constitute these groups, of course, you're working with staff too, but you can make adjustments as the group agrees, right? And I think the main thing is we would prefer to have a stable time.
Yeah, I mean, the
It
benefit.
helps to have a stable time, because if we have the stable time, you can create, Nick can create a schedule for the year, post it, and we've met our requirements.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to notice all the meetings within 24 hours, excluding, I believe, Sundays and holidays. It's the same procedure as the school board meetings. So obviously, if we have this standard schedule, we can post that, and then we meet our obligation for the year. And then I just need to be notified of changes, additional meetings, cancellations, things like that. But if we have this process where everybody's got a consistent time, then it allows us to just fulfill that, once a year or so.
And 5 of these committees, the first 5 are in policy, and they're school board committees. They function very similarly to this meeting right here. Obviously, you have 3 members. You don't want 4. That would be a court. You'd have a school board meeting, but you still have motions and so forth that can be made during that time frame. Usually, motions to say, let's bring such and such to the school board for further conversation.
Okay. Very good. So then, yes, Christine.
So that finance on committee on Thursdays, although I really want to be on the finance committee, and I'm very excited to be on the finance committee. June through September. That's going to be very difficult for me to make those meetings on a Thursday or a Tuesday. If it's on a Tuesday, I can do my best to be there. I'll probably be pretty messy when I get here. Be coming in from the field, but
We will, in the course of our meetings, we will adjust timeframes as necessary.
okay.
Like Nick says, we'll just schedule it for every Thursday, the third Thursday. But if we need to change it at any time, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be on this committee.
It has been the practice to often, not the school board itself, not the school board meetings, but to not have some of these committees take place during the summertime.
Okay.
So September is a different story, but
Yeah, well, that
June,
would just be
July,
one
and
meeting.
August, often, I mean, facilities might continue to go through because there's going to be a
'Cause there's
massive
things
amount
going
of
on.
work
Depends,
going on.
depends on the work that you have.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. I'm excited about these committees, so I'll just figure it out
Good, great.
somehow.
Yeah, excellent. And we want to mention, by the way, about these committees, we only want to have 3 school board members, because if we have a 4th, that constitutes a regular school board meeting, and that creates complications. However, and I think this was said previously by Nick, if a 4th person, member of the school board, wants to attend these meetings, they're welcome to, but they need to attend as a member of the public, in the role of a member of the public.
Well, and just as another general note is all these meetings, for anybody who is digitally here, these are open to the public, so people can attend these meetings. They're not closed door private meetings. So if a member of the public wants to attend these, they can follow the schedule and do that.
Right. And so, Nick, does that mean they can attend via Zoom as well? Do we
I mean,
offer that option? Or
The Zoom component obviously depends on whether or not we are offering Zoom. Currently, the one meeting that we are offering consistently through Zoom would be the monthly education committee meeting, just because there's been deemed value in having that session recorded just due to what's being talked about. So because of that, we can, put that up on YouTube. If we're talking about PLCs, that's something people can refer to, and we can just have that thematic monthly meeting kind of be there. When it comes to other meetings, obviously, you'd have to set up some sort of Zoom compatibility in order to do that. You'd have to have somebody that would be able to run that component. I could handle a committee or two. I don't know if I would have the ability to handle every single committee, because then, it takes about an hour to set all this up, take it down. You're talking the time for me to be there. So why that's doing that today.
so one thing we've done as a facilities committee, last year, we had a member who typically was at work out of town, but who could take time out from her job to show up via Zoom. In the case of that committee, I believe was Trey Horn who would set that up. Wasn't a professional setup like this. He would turn on his laptop and
now it's my understanding that if you're looking at committee members, and obviously we have staff members that attend these meetings, they're not, to my knowledge, deemed members of the committee. It's really just the board members for these top 5 that we're referring to. When it comes to those, it's my understanding that you would still have to satisfy a physical quorum. So should one person want to chime in, obviously that's possible. It's my understanding that you couldn't hold an exclusively Zoom meeting. I think the one exception to that would be as if it was an emergency. And I don't know if, Charlie, you have an understanding of the laws to know if I'm speaking correctly about that.
There's a bill for the legislature to allow remote attendance, but as of today, Nick's absolutely right, that you cannot establish a quorum. So you'd have to have 2 board members present.
Right.
The third one could dial in, but they need to be heard by the audience in the room. And they need to be able to hear the audience in the room.
right.
Yeah, the importance of that connection is the audio, not so much the video. Like you could chime in via a phone line or something like that. But again, the importance is that they need to be able to hear what's going on and they need to be able to be heard. And then it needs to be notated in the minutes that they attended remotely or how they.
But if you Zoom it to the public, you have to be aware of if there's any communication problems, you have to cancel the meeting. Because if you open it up for public attendance via Zoom and you have technical issues where the public can't hear, then you've got to postpone that meeting and reschedule it.
All right, so then here's a legal question. Can we open it up to one participant who's not a member of the public, but not open it to the public via Zoom?
If that person is a member of the committee, okay, they don't have to be a board member, they be a member of the committee, then you can have them attend remotely.
Right now, everything that we're doing via Zoom, everything that I'm doing is at this point an elective process that we're doing. There's no, a lot of the things that we were doing and had to do were very COVID related. We've just kind of chosen to continue to do it. There's no, Charlie said there's a House bill coming up that could, make some changes, but ultimately we're at a place where this is an elective addition to our process. So you could, the requirements specifically looking at the board or the committee attendance are different than, this kind of component that I'm running. So you could theoretically, based on my understanding, open it to just that one member, but keep that closed, because it would be the same thing as if one of you couldn't make it, we could set up a phone line. Obviously Zoom's a little bit more efficiently, but we could set up a phone line with a speaker to have you chime in that way. And obviously we're not going to have a call-in line to have, that compatibility. So.
Right. And by the way, that phone solution in some cases might be more effective, actually. Okay. So then moving on, we have policy, the policy committee. And I don't know if we have a set time for that? I
We
suspect.
do.
We do.
We do. So I would like policy to meet on the third Thursdays at 4:30. Does that
Okay,
work for
Wasn't there something else in the
Kim and
third
John?
Thursday?
Third Thursday
At
at
1:30.
1:30
Oh,
was
okay.
finance.
Did you say 1:30?
third Thursday at 4:30? You have a
4:30.
meeting at 1:30.
yeah,
can do
that's the
the-
second Thursday at 4:30. That's, education is the second Thursday.
Right. But
So you're proposing,
I am proposing to meet the third Thursday at 4:30. It had been the fourth, but there's too many school vacations and busyness happening on the fourth. So I would like it to be the third Thursdays now. I could
So
do
you want to,
Wednesdays if
so
that
you want
works
to actually
better.
meet?
Hmm?
You want to meet then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just kidding. Third Thursday. Does that work for you guys? Wednesday's fine with me too, if that works better.
I like Thursday personally, but
Thursday works for me. I'll be here anyway.
All right,
yeah, it's nice to just
thank you.
back them.
Although if
What
my
about you, Kim?
finance
Yeah.
committee runs to 4:30, we got a
Right.
big problem.
Yeah.
all
We'll
right,
just
very
kick you
good.
out of the room. We'll just merge the
If
two,
finance,
right?
if finance goes 3 hours, then we have big problems.
We have big problems.
Okay, and then we have school board goals.
So goals meets quarterly. It is a once every 3 months, and we are due for a meeting. Our last meeting was, I think, in January. So toward the end of the month would be good too. Does, you said Thursdays work better for you, Ruben? Wednesdays don't, Tuesdays, what?
It's, well, it's.
You're
it's
kind
usually-
of integral to them.
Yeah, so that is for that one. I like the Thursday, just makes sense. If we keep them on the Thursdays, it's just,
Could we do a second Thursday of May? We'll start second Thursdays? No,
What time?
4:30,
well,
No,
4:30
because that's
4:30
when
is
the
the
education-
education committee.
the education committee. All right. All right, we could do the fourth Thursday, do the May one then, and then discuss it there. So that would be May 26th at 4:30.
Yep.
For board goals. May 26th. Daisy, does that work for you? Yeah.
Think
I know I know it seems like it's far away, but it's not. It's just not.
We'll come around quickly, huh?
Very quickly.
Okay, so that's the fourth Thursday.
Yeah.
But it's quarterly.
4:30. So it's not, but it's quarterly, yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you. And then we have wellness, manifests, and communication. Now, those are not strictly board committees, although they include board members. And, well, why don't we start with communication? I know that there are plans.
Yeah, so we haven't met in a while, mostly due to just me not having the time to set up the meetings. I think the last time we met was around the beginning of the year to discuss some of the website things. It's obviously could talk about any number of subjects. We do have a charge from the board to look at certain things on the website in terms of being able to make them more user friendly. There are certain other things that we need to talk about. So my thought was to meet again sometime this month. We don't have a standard meeting time for a committee like this. What I do is that when there is kind of a need to meet, I will send out a doodle poll with just a couple different times and dates, try to get everybody for one meeting, because obviously we're working with parents, teachers, school board members, other people, life obligations could change. So rather than setting that standard time and potentially missing people, we try to really see when those committee members can meet. So I'll probably be sending something out soon with a couple agenda items and hopefully trying to meet at some point mid or end of this month. But those meetings are typically held sometime in the evening, because obviously we have, working folks that can't meet during the day. I think typically, 5, 6, 7 o'clock. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are usually days that we've met in the past. And then those can either be in person or remote, depending on, although I am looking more specifically into the rules, because based on having a school board committee versus more of an administrative committee and what obligations we have to post those agendas, things like that. So obviously we're working on that piece of it too, or at least I'm working on it. So
Okay,
I'll send that out to those two members, Daisy and John, when time comes.
okay, thank you. Good. And then I guess wellness, we could say, is kind of set in a similar way. We meet fairly regularly.
Yeah.
But Heather has been setting those meetings as a chairperson.
Yeah, we've been meeting about once a month. Mondays at 3:15. It's not a set Monday, but we do have a meeting coming up. April 18th. I think.
Right. In fact, we just had one set this week, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, very good. And then manifests, we've got Lisa and Paul, and we discussed that earlier. Usually Deanna Bryant sends out a notice. She'll send out an email asking those who are doing it to come in, and usually have a couple of days of flexibility. And you know, once you get used to it, it can be fairly quick. Lisa, how long do you typically spend on that
10 to
assignment?
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was actually something I wanted to ask you, Ruben. In terms of that responsibility, how would you describe it? I mean, obviously, we're not doing the work of the bookkeepers or checking numbers or anything like that, right? But it's an oversight role. How
So
would you-
different boards do it different ways. So in a previous job of mine, we would actually, as a committee, a finance committee, we would look at all of those and they would pick out items and have discussions about it. That would be neat to have once in a while. You know, we have, it's so regular. Yeah, no, and that was a much smaller district. So it was a single school district. So it was, you know, once a month was fine. So we're talking about weekly. So I would say here, it's good to go through. I would first start off going through each and every one of them, like really just look at it. If you look at the actual checks and everything that's attached to them, you can learn a lot about the financial, just you learn everything about the finances of the district and what we spend money, and you can start to look at trends as well that way. I think as you get going, you know, just looking through the actual, you know, manifest itself is perfectly fine. Make some notes if you want to on it. Notes as in like questions. Often someone's there to answer questions if you have questions there on the spot. So whether it be Carrie or Leanne or myself, we typically have had a lot of conversation about the items that have been purchased or are going to be purchased. There will be some that are like elementary books or supplies that I probably wouldn't be able to answer very well, because that's just a repetitive thing that has happened on an annual basis. Basically, what I would say is that they're buying updated, you know, books for their classes for reading purposes. But you know, and then of course the money, you get a really great sense of how much money we spend as a district on health benefits, dental, things of that nature. Like I'm always, every time I get either payroll or the manifest around health benefits, it's just, those are huge dollars. And so you get
The
a,
out of district students.
well,
it's
out of district
very good
students
to see.
too, I'd say, you know, just be very careful, as I don't think we put a lot of information in there.
No,
No.
No,
I don't even believe.
No,
we
just the
put- we
school.
put it- Yeah, just the
yeah,
school.
just the name of the
So,
school.
just if you know who that is, you got to keep that to yourself. It's very important that we do not provide any information, even in this setting right here, that could lead toward anyone knowing, you know, that sort of information. That would be a big problem. So
Well, I can email you when I'm able to. We usually get a message from Diane on Thursday afternoons or Fridays saying that they're ready, and they get anxious if we don't do them by Monday. So I could email you when I'm available to go. It's by 4 o'clock, right around 4 o'clock, either Friday or Mondays, that I'm able to get there. So if you're able to do that, then I could meet you for the first one and we could go over them together and kind of see where, yeah, that's.
And then other than that, I'm allowed to do it anytime.
within
Well,
the-
and if you can't, by the way, that's okay too. We just need to know so we can get John or
Yeah,
probably
no.
Charlie in here
Mm-hmm.
to be able to sign off on them.
I'm pretty flexible. Like if it's early on a Friday, I can do it, or it would have to wait till Monday.
Yeah, early Fridays work very well.
Yeah, so if it's either
People may
one
not
of
know
those.
it, but tonight we just approved $1.1 million in expenses.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
We have to do it when the HR office is open, like when that, it has to be in the time frame of their office being open. That
So
was,
4 o'clock, so that's gonna work for you. right?
but early in the morning, yeah, I don't think they open before 8.
Yeah,
So-
8 to 4.
Oh,
basically.
yeah, 8 o'clock works.
I thought I meant 4 AM.
Okay, very good. And then our last committee that we have listed is construction trades. And I'm not sure when that meets, but
Looks like
Apparently,
you're gonna be
whenever you
kind of
want.
lonely there, John.
I know,
Well,
whenever you want to meet, John.
I don't
Do you
think
wanna
it's
zoom in?
set by me. The construction trades pack,
It's the, yeah, it's the PAC,
yeah,
which is the advisory committee. So people made up of the community, people in the field. It also, we tend to have Jen Kiley, who is the CTE director, attend as well. We have to have at least 2, I believe. So 1 in the beginning of the year, 1 at the end. We try to have 3.
okay.
So if, no, almost, it's never been more than 3 that I'm aware of.
Okay,
So,
and
and
Alright,
we,
very
and I
good.
actually, I think I have an email on that one, so that we have to have one coming up. I'll look at that.
good. And then the last one I just want to mention is that I believe Charlie has been participating in the teacher support and evaluation committee. Is that right, Charlie?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the schedule on that is.
We meet on this Thursday,
this Thursday, yeah.
and then we'll make the schedule from there. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't meet all the time. It's just time to review
Yeah,
and to revise.
good.
And what is it?
It's the, and you'd be fine to come to it as well, anyone really. Actually, not having too many would be good. But we have some teachers, we have some administrators on it, and then Charlie, and Charlie's been on it since the dawn of time, when we had this type of committee. So before I was here, and so he's been a consistent person on that it meets, it's for the purpose of just looking at the teacher support and evaluation system as it currently is. And so, and then to make some adjustments to it, and that would come to the board as well, and we go forward. So for instance, if we felt, oh, we shouldn't have 4 mini observations, we should have 14, that sort of thing, and then discuss about how that would happen. So it's about the process, about data. So what do you mean by data? We kind of did do that a couple of years ago before COVID. So that was the last thing that was shifted, was giving options instead of just the SLO. If you remember what the SLO, the student learning objective. So there are 2 or 3 other options that people can use for that data portion.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, everybody. I guess now it's time for our second public comments, actually our third tonight. We include the roundabout session.
Yes, so there are still some people online. So obviously, one more opportunity to make any sort of public comments you may have. policies back up on the screen for those to read. First name, last name, town of residence. Use the hand raise feature at the bottom of your screen and we can acknowledge you that way. All right, I'm not seeing anybody.
Okay, well, if anybody pops up in the next couple of minutes, let us know. And in the meantime, why don't we move on and discuss board matters? Does anybody have any board matters? Charlie?
JRAO.
GRAO.
JRAO.
JRAO.
I wanted to know who wanted to participate in that negotiation.
So why don't you tell us first what that stands for?
JRAO is an organization of administrators. It includes the principals and assistant principals primarily. And they have a contract with us. All right, it's not a collective bargaining agreement, but it is an agreement that we work out between the administration and the school board around some guidelines and some rules that we both buy into. And we negotiate, I believe it's every 2 years, and make changes to the agreement, that we agree to. We were approached to address, the negotiations again this year, but the board, we have, at the time when we were approached, we didn't have a complete board, and we hadn't assigned members to do the negotiation yet. So I asked them if they wanted me to broach the subject with them, or whether they wanted to wait for the full board to assign a committee to do it. And they said, apparently they'd wait. Susan said she'd wait. So all we need is who's going to negotiate with JRAO.
How many people do you need?
What's that?
How many people are needed?
We need 2 or possibly 3, but at least 2.
When will we meet? When would they meet?
Is it a monthly, once, twice?
No, it's a negotiation. You sit down and you determine your meeting schedule, what the issues are you're going to address, and it's like a negotiation, but it's not the same as, it doesn't fall under the guidelines that the state requires, okay? So it's just a district agreement that we negotiate on a semi-annual basis.
And Charlie, how many meetings would you anticipate might take?
It depends on what's on their mind. Usually it only takes maybe 3.
In the past couple has been 2 or 3.
Yeah, and then we bring it to the board for ratification. We had one that took a little bit longer because we changed from, I forget what it's called, credit for sick days. We changed that to
Attendance credits.
Yeah, attendance credits we changed to 401k.
Mhm.
And 401k contribution, which made much more sense for administrators, and because they're salary anyway. So that took a little bit longer, but other than that, it's been 2-3 meetings. We've been able to resolve things.
So half to a third of, like, say, a teacher negotiation contract, which meets like 6 minimum, maybe up to 9.
Right.
Committee that meets 3 times a year?
No, it just means.
Every 3 years.
Negotiate.
Well, well, it has been every 3 years. It could be longer. That, I mean, between, depending on what the agreement is. But you basically meet probably 3 times.
Excuse me, and that's coming up soon? This is the negotiation.
We haven't set a date or a time or anything. We need to do it quickly, yes, because the current agreement expires at the end of June.
If it's before the end of June, you can count me in.
All right, so we've got 3 people who are interested. Charlie, I know you've done this before.
Well, if we go to 4 people, does that
Yeah.
put it to a board?
Right. We probably don't want
You
4.
don't want 4.
We want Is 3 gonna work?
Oh,
And are you gonna
Yeah, three
participate?
will work because, people
You
gotta
guys can
learn,
do it.
Okay.
Stand down on that one.
because it'll probably be,
Paul, if you really want to do it, I'm happy to let you go. I'm happy.
Oh, it doesn't, I don't want to, if there's something you wanted, I don't want to jump in on it, but I don't mind doing it at all.
Why don't you go ahead? I'll
Okay.
deal with the finance numbers.
so, who do we have?
Me, him and you.
Okay, does that
And
work?
Paul,
for you?
you're
Does that
from
work?
Jaffrey, right?
Renge.
You're from.
Do you
Ridge.
want her in, like,
Um,
as seasoned? I can back out.
it makes whoever wants to learn from it, then fine, it's a learning process for anybody. So,
There's gonna be plenty of opportunities in the next couple of years, for maybe 3 years, to be able to negotiate
oh yeah,
different groups. Maybe next year.
we have JRSSA and we have
JRSSA,
JREA.
yeah.
Within your 3 years, you'll probably see 1, 2, 3. Yeah, at least 3 negotiations.
All right, we'll check this one off our list right in the beginning.
There you go.
All right, so you're gonna do it then?
I'll do it.
And Paul and Charlie?
Who's doing it?
Charlie, Paul,
Charlie.
and Kim are going to be the members of that group, the JRAO, and
And then when we get to the next more difficult negotiation, then Christine,
There you go.
yeah, first. All right, and any other board matters? Lisa?
You'll let me know whenever we
I'll
start.
send out an email to Susan and she can let us know.
Perfect.
So today happens to be School Librarians Day. And I would like to commend and recognize the amazing work done by our school librarians, Nicole Tenters, Jay Jobin, and Kelly Budd. They are integral members of their school community, and their passion and advocacy for the students and professionalism in their roles is critical to a healthy learning environment. Thank you, Kelly, Jay, and Nicole, for everything you do to create safe and inspiring spaces for our schools.
Thank you. Excellent.
they are
Well said.
fantastic group of educators.
Thank you.
And even though those are the librarians, the professional positions, the individuals working with them do a fantastic job too, the associates.
And they're so darn creative, coming up with all of these contests and things to get people
It's
interested in reading.
exhausting.
Wow.
They are.
I don't know, tricky. Kids coming to the library with opening up their gifts that are their gift wrapped books that they don't know what it is. It's like this, it's like, I don't know. I need to know. I need to see what I'm doing. No surprises.
All right, does anybody else have any other board matters?
You and I met today with the Conval superintendent and board chair, and also the Messinic superintendent and board chair, and we talked about CTE renovation and something that we will need to bring back to the board.
Right.
So
there's been a proposal, especially for those of you who have just joined the board, to renovate the CT construction trades. No.
here,
it is.
the construction trades
Yeah.
here, yep.
But the program that provides trade education. And it has been a 3-part program with Conval, Messinic, and Jaffrey Ringe. The main building, though, is in Peterborough at Conval. And once every 10 years or so, I think it is, they go through a cycle, and each year they pick a certain number of districts to have their trade center renovated. And that means that the state provides some serious financial assistance. We are negotiating as to whether or not, well, it's our turn, the turn for these 3 districts to be renovated. In other words, to have an investment to upgrade the services available. We started a few months ago talking about what that might look like and what participation we might want to have as Jaffrey Range. We learned recently, last month or earlier this month, that, well, not earlier this month, we learned recently that the state initially said there was only be the main center, main Conval, that would participate financially. And so in our meeting today, we agreed as a, you know, 3 community or 3 district center, that we didn't think that that was the way it should be done. And so the plan is to present our case to the state, and we believe we've got a strong case. And Conval supports the notion that Messianic and Jaffrey Range should also be included in the funding. So there is a letter being put together, and we expect to have that letter available for the next board meeting. And we'll take a look at it, and if everybody agrees, we'll send it off.
I have one more thing if that's done, and this is, it's been on my mind and I should have, this is as good a time as any. With the classroom changes at JGS RMS, is there any chance of increasing preschool space?
So at JGS, there's definitely space for another preschool if you wanted to go that avenue. And RMS, we would have to look at what we'd want to do and how that would be done. So I don't have a definite on that one. You know, location of bathrooms. You know, we'd have to look at things.
Would the lottery that we have in place that we've already done, with the number of, was there high enough interest to support the funds that would need?
The short answer is yes. I believe, I just got this information emailed to me as well. There's a lot going on.
There's people still
There's stuff
on.
going on
It's like
all the
magic.
time. Yeah, it's just, we have a lot going on all the time. I believe the last numbers I had was 26 4-year-olds still on a waiting, would be on a waiting list.
Seriously.
Yeah. So let me just, I'm looking for Storm's last, oh, here we go. It's called preschool waiting list.
Hi, Storm.
Yeah. And she might, if she's on, I'd be psyched to have her even talk about it. I know that. I know she was at one point in time.
Storm Meadows?
Yes, she oversees.
Yeah, she's
this.
not on right now.
Yeah. Okay, so between, let's see, full days, these are waiting lists. 444, 1, 12, 2, that's 11. And then RMS looks like 14. So yeah, 25 to 26 4-year-olds. That's just for full day wanting to be on that list. And then there's half days as well. A bunch of 3-year-olds that are on the waiting list for.
So this could
half days.
feasibly be some income.
You could do income. We have chosen to provide it not as an income. A lot of people weren't paying for that even when they were doing it. You can turn them away, but you kind of benefit from having them take part. We do have enough feedback that we could look at the ESSER funds to see if we wanted to look in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, we have enough feedback from parents about behavior concerns that they see as a need for remedy. I think the staff would agree with that as well. And that certainly if, it has to, we have to be able to write the grant to show that it's a need due to COVID. I think that early childhood, we've seen kids coming in at first grade who haven't been in school really, and they're not the same that we've had in the past. And so anytime you're focusing on prevention as opposed to just trying to get people back in place, we need to spend funds that way as well. So we have to balance this. Technically, you have enough money to go probably 2 years and implement actually 2 full-time 4-year-old preschools for 2 years. Then you'd be stuck with needing to make those decisions 3 years down the road for
You realize if we did that,
Yeah.
that opens up for Franklin Pierce to actually have some early childhood beyond the upper grades.
Well, it can. They currently don't
I know
do that.
this, to have
Mhm.
that much investment put into an early childhood program.
Mhm.
That
And-
opens up a lot of opportunity.
There's the careers and education program at Conval that, and those students used to go to Dublin Community Preschool. But they no longer go there. So they've been looking for a preschool
Mhm.
to partner with.
There are options for our high school learners to, if there could be some planning. If we moved our, I don't want
I don't
to
do
talk
that.
changes. Let's not. continue. We could go on.
Could
We
you-
could go on for another hour.
No,
Let's
but
not
could
do
you
that.
please pursue this? I think this would be, this feels like a no-brainer.
I'll put some numbers together. I have to have, I'll put the survey data that I have together to make sure that there's reason for that.
Mhm.
And I'll come back at the next board meeting with some thoughts and what could go forward and how to pursue it. Yeah.
Would it be helpful, would Storm be helpful at that meeting to kind of talk to us? I mean, if she's kind of been owning the preschool program kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Storm, I would need. I have a general understanding of almost
Right.
everything. I don't have the
Right.
depth of understanding of
Yeah.
what goes on in those programs.
Yeah, it would be great if she could also participate in the discussion.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
probably, maybe even Susan as well. Susan's done a lot of work to get preschool pushed forward in this district.
It would be so exciting. Oh, my word. That would be so exciting. Get some
Excellent.
real intervention happening. That'd be really cool. Early intervention.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I just have one more quick board matter I just want to throw out there. We go through the consent agenda and fairly quickly, which is nice, but we did have a nice donation for water bottle filling station from the JGS Parents Group. I think that was great. They should be congratulated. And we got 2 nice stipends for our DI coaches from the New Hampshire Innovation and Creativity Connection. So that's nice too, but the water station in particular. And also the field trip approval for the RMS DI team to go to Kansas City for the Globals. How awesome.
And let me tell you, those water bottle and filling stations, like I can't even imagine that we went without them.
Yeah.
I actually looked at one of our operational old water fountains and
Yeah.
and thought to myself, "Oh, what were we thinking?
I know,
Yeah,
ew,
I
ew.
would never touch that. Yeah, I just never would right now. Wow.
Right.
And it's not even because of germs, except that germs.
Right. Nick, I see you have your hand. Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick note for the board. Older board members might be a little bit more aware, but I also sent some information or like a forward out. The New Hampshire School Board Association, which the new board members should be signed up for at this point. They have a lot of really great webinar opportunities that give you guys a lot of good educational benefits. There was one today on meetings, non-meetings, and non-public sessions. There's one next Monday, I believe, on communications, emails, and social media. So they just have a lot of different topics. They do these annually. They also have a annual new school board member orientation, which happens in May. So these are just good resources for, regardless of how many years you have on the board. I usually try to attend as many as I can just to make sure I'm up to date on whatever laws, to make sure I can help, you guys. I try to register for all of them because sometimes they do send out the presentation packets and maybe even recordings of the meetings. So if I get those, I usually try to send them to everybody anyway, just in case you can't make them, because a lot of them are usually like noon, 1 o'clock during the day. But just wanted to make you guys aware that that is a resource that you have as a board member. There's other benefits to being a part of the association, but I think the big one, just real quick before we go, is those webinars.
That was in the email you sent us, right?
Right.
Yeah, and
Okay.
And Nick, those are like $30 each. Do we pay for those?
no, we have a membership, so those are that's a good point. Those are free. Well, not free. Like we have a due that we pay to be a part of the association. But we are subscribers or members or whatever the
So how would we
terminology is.
register then using our subscription?
Yeah, so typically and I can forward this email, but there was an email sent out this morning that everybody should have received. If you aren't receiving them, please let me know. Sent out about 9 o'clock today. They come from the School Board Association, and it's a webinar schedule, and it just has a button that says click here to register. So you click that, you follow the process, you enter some information, and then you go from there. So I'll forward this to everybody, but is everybody receiving those emails?
I got one, I think, with a list, but I don't think I don't know, let me look.
If you click on the,
Quick way to spend. Nick, thank you for bringing that up. Those webinars are great. And, you know, you can, if you sign up and then you can't make the entire webinar, I think because you're signed up, you can access the recording. You can probably access it anyway if you call them and ask them, but if you're signed up.
Yeah, and I usually, like I said, like today I signed up for it, but I couldn't make it. In the past, they have sent out emails a day or two after that has the, like I said, the presentation and then also a recording. So even if you can't make it, sometimes it's helpful just to sign up because again, it's not anything that we're not paying per webinar. They also have, Charlie, don't you go typically every year to the Kidder Law Conference that they put on?
Yep.
So they also have a law conference that discusses things like that. We get emails periodically about various legislation moving through the state. They offer opinions. They give us policy recommendations periodically. So they provide a lot of services to the district to kind of help us, keep in the loop with everything.
And I found that what you learn through those things, the information is useful beyond just this role, because it's specific to school boards, but a lot of the processes are similar to what you would use in other roles, on a planning board or, whatever. And they're professionally done and well worth the time. Thank you, Nick. And if there's nothing else, we need one more thing, which is a motion. We need a motion to
I make a motion to
adjourn. That's the one.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
adjourn.